The storm raged across the prairie, thunder, rain, and darkness swallowing the land. A young woman, already shunned by her town, opened her door to a dying cowboy. She knew helping him would cost her everything: her safety, her family's fragile peace, even what little reputation she had left. But she still chose to save him. What she didn't know was that the man she dragged in from the storm would change her life forever, and repay her with something she thought she'd lost long ago: true love. The prairie was drowning in rain that night, thunder rumbling like war drums across the endless sky. Sarah Garrett stood on the porch of her family's small, weather-beaten cabin, clutching her shawl close. Life had not been kind to her. Since her father's death and her stepfather's disgrace, the town had labeled her family cursed, tainted, unworthy of respect. For Sarah, there were no friendly smiles at church, no warm greetings at the store, only stares sharp as knives and whispers that cut deeper still. But even the cruelest storm can bring the unexpected. Through the curtain of rain, she saw a figure stumbling down the road. A man. He clutched his side, staggering as though each step cost him dearly. Lightning cracked the sky, and in that brief flare of light, she saw the truth. His shirt soaked through with blood. He collapsed against the fence near the cabin, mud splashing up around him. Sarah's breath caught. Logic screamed at her to stay away, to close the door and pretend she hadn't seen. What would people say if they discovered she'd taken in a strange man? What would the gossip be this time? But her heart didn't listen. She hurried through the rain and knelt beside him. His face was pale, lips trembling, and when his eyes fluttered open, they were startlingly blue. "Don't," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Don't trouble yourself. I ain't worth saving." Sarah's grip tightened on his arm. "Maybe not to the world," she said, "but you're worth saving to me." She dragged him toward the cabin with all the strength she had. Her mother, Emma, turned from the fire, shock in her eyes. Daniel, Sarah's younger brother, stared with the awe only a child could show. "Another mouth, another burden," Emma whispered. "Another soul," Sarah answered. They laid the stranger by the hearth, the firelight painting his face in gold and shadow. His name, muttered through fevered lips, was Cole. The bullet wound in his side was angry and deep. Sarah's hands trembled as she heated the knife, but her voice was steady. "Mama, hold him down." The sound of steel piercing flesh filled the room. Cole screamed even in unconsciousness, thrashing as Emma pressed her weight against his shoulders. Daniel covered his ears, but Sarah kept working. Blood gushed, the smell sharp and metallic. Her vision blurred, but her will held firm. At last, the bullet clinked into a tin cup. She stitched him with thread meant for mending clothes, her fingers burning with exhaustion. When Daniel asked in a frightened whisper, "Will he die?" Sarah shook her head. "Not if I can help it." For 3 days she nursed him, cooling his fever with snow, coaxing water past his lips, listening to his restless mutters. By the 4th morning, his eyes opened clear and searching. When he saw her face, his voice, rough as gravel, asked, "Why did you save me?" Sarah looked at him, tired but unflinching. "Because someone had to." Cole's recovery was slow. Each day he gained a little more strength, though his side burned and throbbed whenever he moved. He spent his mornings by the fire, his afternoons trying to stand, his evenings watching Sarah cook thin porridge or Emma mend clothes by the window. Daniel, curious and fearless, peppered him with questions about horses and guns and cattle drives. But shadows lingered. Sarah saw them in Cole's eyes whenever Daniel asked if he'd killed men, whenever his hand unconsciously touched the scar across his brow. One night, when rain pattered softly on the roof, he told her the truth. "I worked a ranch in Wyoming," he said, voice low. Good man ran it. Thomas Garrett was his name. Claim jumpers came one night. Shot him dead. I tried to stop them. Took this bullet for my trouble. His daughter, Margaret, called me a coward. Said I froze when I should have fought harder. Said she never wanted to see me again. Sarah's hands stilled on the cloth she was folding. Garrett. Her father's name. She looked up, eyes wide. No relation, I reckon, Cole muttered, but shame bent his shoulders. You blame yourself? She asked softly. Wouldn't you? Sarah thought of her own past, of her stepfather's disgrace, of the way the town branded them all as criminals, thieves, sinners. She thought of Daniel being called the thief's bastard by other children. I know what it means to be blamed for something you didn't deserve, she said, but that doesn't make you guilty. Cole studied her, something shifting in his gaze. That night, Sarah lay awake, wondering why she felt safer with this broken stranger than she ever had with the townsfolk who judged her. When spring thawed the land, Cole's strength returned. He mended fences, chopped firewood, even whittled a wooden horse for Daniel. The boys' laughter filled the cabin again, a sound long absent. Emma, ever watchful, told Sarah, "That man is making himself part of this family." Sarah turned away, hiding the warmth in her chest. But the outside world had not forgotten them. When Sarah rode into town for supplies, whispers followed her like shadows. Living in sin, they said. Harboring a drifter. At the store, Mr. Hollis sneered, "Cash only, Miss Garrett. No more credit for your kind." When she returned home with shaking hands and red eyes, Cole noticed. He said nothing, but the next day he left and returned with flour, coffee, and fabric for Daniel's clothes. Sarah saw the empty holster at his side. "Where's your gun?" she asked. "Sold it," he replied simply. "That gun kept you alive." "You kept me alive," Cole said, meeting her gaze. "This is my way of returning the favor." That night, Daniel wore Cole's hat and swaggered like a cowboy. Emma whispered to Sarah, "That man loves you." Sarah's heart pounded because she knew it was true. If you're enjoying this story of love and survival in the Wild West, don't forget to subscribe for more tales just like this one. Late March brought warmth and trouble. Pastor Yates arrived at their farm with Sheriff Denton and several town elders. Sarah's stomach twisted as they dismounted, faces grim. "We hear you've taken in an unmarried man," Pastor Yates said smoothly. "It is inappropriate, immoral." "He works here," Sarah said firmly. "We feed him. He helps with the farm. Honest trade." The elder Hollis sneered. "What are you really getting, cowboy? This family has no money." Emma bristled, but Pastor Yates raised his voice, dripping with false kindness. "A twice-ruined woman, her daughter, and a strange man, corrupting a young boy with sin. We can't allow it. The man leaves, or we petition to remove the child." Daniel clutched Cole's hand, terrified. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Sheriff Denton looked uneasy, but said nothing. "You'd really take a child from his family?" Cole's voice was quiet, dangerous. "We would save him from corruption," Pastor Yates replied coldly. 3 days. That was the ultimatum. 3 days for Cole to leave, or Sarah's family would be destroyed. That night, Sarah found Cole in the barn, packing his bedroll. "So you'll just go?" she demanded, fury and fear mixing in her voice. "Prove them right? That you're nothing but a drifter who takes and leaves?" "I won't be the reason you lose everything," Cole said, his voice cracking. "I'd rather go than see Daniel torn from you." Tears blurred Sarah's vision. "You're the first good thing in 2 years," she whispered. "And She couldn't finish. Cole pulled her into his arms, his embrace fierce. "I'll go, but I'll find work. I'll save money, and I'll come back proper. I'll marry you, Sarah, if you'll have me. I swear it." Sarah's heart ached with longing and fear. Promises had always felt fragile in a cruel world. Could his be different? The days before his departure were hollow. The cabin felt like a tomb, silence thick as grief. Sarah replayed everything in her mind, finding Cole in the rain, his laughter with Daniel, the moment his eyes softened when he looked at her. How could she let him go? Then resolve burned through her fear. She marched into the barn where Cole saddled the mare. "Wait," she said, grabbing the reins. "Don't leave until I get back." "Sarah, trust me," she said, and kissed him fiercely before riding away. She stormed into the church where Pastor Yates was preparing his sermon. Her voice rang like thunder. "I'm going to the spring dance with Cole. And if you or anyone else objects, say it to my face in front of the whole town. I'm done hiding." The pastor gaped like a fish, but Sarah didn't wait for his answer. She rode home lighter than she'd felt in years. Cole stood on the porch, stunned as she dismounted. "What did you do?" "I told them the truth," she said breathlessly. "We go to that dance together. We show them we're not ashamed." The spring dance came. Sarah wore her mother's altered wedding dress, simple and cream-colored. Cole wore a borrowed shirt. When they walked into the town hall, conversation stopped. Some faces showed disgust. Others, curiosity, maybe even respect. The fiddles started. Cole whispered, "I can't dance worth a damn." Sarah smiled, holding out her hand. "I don't care." They danced. Surrounded by those who had shunned them, Sarah felt chains fall away. For the first time in years, she was free. Not because the town accepted her, but because she accepted herself. Cole's promise was no longer fragile. It was real. 2 weeks later, the prairie bloomed with wildflowers. Cole worked Henderson's ranch by day, rode home each evening. Sarah tended the garden. Daniel practiced roping. Emma hummed as she hung laundry. Life, once bleak survival, now felt like hope. One evening, Cole led Sarah to the barn, the place their story began. Spring light glowed through the wooden slats. He pulled something from his pocket, a wooden ring carved with a turquoise stone. "I'll get you a proper one someday," he said nervously. Sarah's eyes shone. "This one is proper. It's made from this land, by your hands, for our life together." He slipped it onto her finger. They kissed as the prairie turned gold in the sunset. Daniel whooped from the cabin. Emma called them in for supper. Later, beneath the stars, Sarah whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" Cole asked. "For staying. For choosing us." He touched her cheek gently. "You saved my life in that storm. But more than that, you saved me from being alone." Sarah smiled. "We saved each other. In that hard land, two broken souls had built something stronger than prejudice. Not everyone in town would ever love them, but they no longer needed everyone. They had love, belonging, and the courage to face whatever came. And now, dear listeners, let me ask you, if you were Sarah, would you risk your reputation for love, even if the whole world stood against you?